Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John's reports for the 10th. Well, all you do is look at it. You've got orange under green, rising DOC red, and likewise magenta over yellow. All the things that we look for, and then particularly that rising white is the short cover rally, and all the way back up. So it's as if nothing happened. There was no war, and you're not going to see the after effects. But really, what the market is now starting to price in is how much inflation is going to cost, and the market isn't going to discount itself to that inflation, which is why we're at this level anyway, just from the last round of inflation. But this one's going to be an interesting one because it's going to be a supply disruption form of inflation where there's just going to be a whole lot of supply chain products that just aren't made because of the disruption in all the different elements of what oil actually does in an economy as far as helium, fertilizers, plastics, you name it. I mean, the list of products is enormous. And even if you got full opening of the Strait now for 2 weeks, you're not going to make up the deficit that's already in the supply chain, particularly because. Well, due to efficiencies and things like that, they just don't have the storage of a reserve. Not so bad in the US, but that doesn't change what the actual price tag of these things from a replacement cost theoretically is. That's a huge boon. I found it was shocking to see that, some of these write offs that the oil companies get to take because they're going to have massive profits from this, massive. And yet they're going to be able to declare losses on this, that, and the other. It's a beautiful thing with accounting, what you can get away with. But you look at it from an NQ standpoint, and this was the earlier, stronger one. Just now, possibly posing the potential weakness with the orange rising here above green. It doesn't matter with the MBI red rising, still not in bad shape. And you also have, what is it, the always buy sign under red. So there's that. Makes it simple. Oil is not in a comfortable spot. If you had some kind of resolution, and of course, obviously the situation today is going to matter, and I would suspect if you don't get cooperation from Iran, it probably would be bombing over the weekend with an attempt to try and resolve it before markets opened up again Monday. And that, um, yeah, this isn't done by any stretch of the imagination, but you're starting to see, you know, the larger geopolitical game here. You've got, Ukraine getting involved in it. Obviously, Russia making deals with Madagascar now. So everyone's trying to create their own little like choke points um, where they can, squeeze benefit out of this change in the global polar situation. The reality is, though, that China is probably suffering the most in all of this. Russia, not so much, and I don't see the issue with Iran is that you can't decapitate nothing that really, has a head. It's sort of decentralized with a broad chain that kind of is directed from there, which is why we saw the attacks continuing after the fact. Exactly what we talked about. It took a while before everyone got into line and sort of is like now on hold. But we'll see if it is able to maintain itself. Seems like a pretty big disconnect between what Washington thinks is happening versus what Iran thinks is happening. This is all huge news for Europe, though. The euro doing fantastic, mostly because everyone just thinks the dollar is ended. And strangest thing ever because they have no clue. You've got a situation now where Germany is limiting exits of men out of the country for fear that they're going to avoid the military draft situation that's building. So Europe is really committed to this idea of going to war in the next couple of years. So it's bizarre stuff. Gold is going to continue its climb. It's not going to be a simple straightforward move, but once you see what happens with the later increase in price effect months down the road from now, yeah, that'll have its own shoot up. Likewise, probably with Bitcoin as well, but now we can see that definitely most likely Bitcoin being used in the transfer of funds for their fees, the toll getting through the Strait of Hormuz, and I think that should break it out of its range. Still, you're going to be a white rising here. Magenta's still going to have to take it over, otherwise, you, you would be looking at a return back to the 0%, which would be a pretty big move back to the downside for Bitcoin following this. So, interesting the amount of distribution taking place within there. From a 50K standpoint, it was a pretty dull day. I mean, just continuation of Magenta above until literally right at the end, and all that was just a brief little excerpt, but you had a complete steel reset. So any dip is just going to be minor, and you can see the ranges narrowing with getting into this almost no volume situation from these huge days, because here's a 5K tick. And this gives you an idea of the range. That's pretty small relative to what we've been seeing these last couple of weeks. Um, the moves are still pretty dramatic intraday within there. I mean, the range is fantastic. Love that part of it. I mean, even a simple move from here, 89s to the 40 some, it's great. It's fantastic stuff. No question about it. But look at how tiny that range is in the pre market here. That is unusual. That's like uh, literally slow times. Nobody's really doing anything with this. Usually we would have, 30 or 40 bars. So that's just how small the volume has become now that crisis has been averted temporarily. And this is the whole rhetoric issue. It's very interesting how they've, after all these years, still haven't figured out how to handle what Trump says versus what the ultimate negotiated goal construct is and who he's dealing with. He's the classic example of, in poker, you don't play your hand, you play the other player. That's exactly how he treated Iran in this situation. So, yeah, people get caught up in the words. So, yeah, it is what it is. We don't really care. But what we can do is see the effects of it from a market move. And um, in a lot of cases, what was interesting was the market moving a bit counter to what some of the rhetoric was, which means people do things behind the scenes and we can see the action taking place. And I think that becomes more relevant because you begin to see that if you follow headlines, you're so far behind that it's just a waste. But a lot of people still do, and you can be moved by that somewhat, but usually the pre-move already tells us exactly the direction we just have to follow it. Anything relevant, though, I will put it on the team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.